everyone. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. We are a weekly podcast dedicated to sincere, in-depth investigations into the paranormal, supernatural, and the metaphysical, with a special focus on the UFO topic. We take a sincere, analytical approach, thoroughly evaluating each case and its implications. Our discussions go beyond the surface as we engage with researchers, investigators, and experiencers to explore the deeper layers of their testimonies. We strive for high-resolution analysis, carefully examining evidence, patterns, and perspectives that challenge conventional thinking. If you're looking for a podcast that seeks deeper understanding, you're in the right place. Please be sure to like and subscribe and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. You can also visit us at www.paranormallypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. Thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in tonight with us. We have a great show coming up. We have Tony and Cherie Rathman here, and we got the opportunity to talk to them once before, and we are going to refresh on that and see how this is bettered than the previous. I believe when we talked last time, Tony, it was just the Staticom project at that point.
Correct. And we were on version 2.0. 3.0, which we're on now, took a major leap forward in the clarity of the speech, the length of it, and the I guess those were the two major things. But yeah, those two, considering we're talking about audio only, are huge to be able to make sure it's audible, you can hear it, and the clarity staying consistent. And that was the problem with 2.0, is that it wouldn't stay. We'd get a sentence or two and then it would disappear.
Okay. All right. Now, for those that's just tuning in and who missed our last chat, can you briefly describe what the Staticom is and how it differs from traditional spirit boxes or DRV setups?
Absolutely. So Staticom was built off of a method used in Europe. It was discovered by a gentleman named Friedrich Jurgensen. And unlike a spirit box, which scans up and down radio and you pick up fragments of audio from radio stations. And when Frank Sumption developed the Frank's box, which is the spirit box or ghost box today, his theory behind it was that spirits would manipulate the pieces of audio from the fragments of radio and turn it into their own sentences. Well, through multiple tests, we determined that radio signal was not needed at all. And also when it scans up and down radio, you not only get fragments of audio from stations, you also have this huge hissing white noise sound on top of it. So we, with our former partners at the time, they did great in-depth research and went back through every known method of spirit communication and focused primarily on DRV, or direct radio voice. Because it didn't move up and down a dial, which eliminated that audio confusion in the messages that you're getting. And Friedrich Jurgensen, when he discovered it, passed it on to a gentleman named Konstantin Radeve, who also did thousands of tests getting voices. And then that information was passed on to a gentleman named Marcello Bacci. Marcello Bacci got it to work. He would hold sessions in his house where he'd invite the public in who had lost a child, a loved one, a significant other, and he was actually able to get messages for them and from people on the other side. And Marcello Bacci was the only one who was ever brought into a scientific lab and tested. And science could not debunk it, could not say you're not getting voices from beyond the grave, you're getting something else. They couldn't do it. So that was encouraging for us. We wanted, being audio ITC focused on 15 years of doing this. That was encouraging information. Well, our former partners got it to work. They showed us, and then we teamed up for about 3 years. But they wanted to go a different path with what they were doing. So we said, okay, you go your way, we'll go ours. And the other main complaint from both scientists and academia was that, wait a minute, you're trying to tell me you're getting voices from the other side, but you're using a radio. By definition, a radio takes RF signal in the atmosphere and turns it into voice. So how do you determine reception from deception, which is a very good point. So the other complaint with EVP, or electronic voice phenomena, and ITC was that you're not hearing speech. You're hearing warbles and artifacts of sound that your brain tries to pattern recognize, make sense of, and you think you're hearing words. So in order to eliminate both those, when we realized that radio signal was not needed at all, we replaced the radio with a white noise generator. A white noise generator creates broadband white noise from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz live. It contains no vocal data whatsoever. There's no words, no sentences, no syllables, nothing. There's no voice in it at all. Then we filter it with programs like denoisers, amplifiers. Staticom also slows down white noise in real time. We slow it 50%. And in fact, we did a live yesterday where when we noticed that not only just running Staticom by itself, but having to pump it through 3 different systems to get it to run live online, that we had some technical difficulties. And the speed of the speech was one of them. But I think we fixed that about 20 minutes ago. So we're going to do some more tests on it. But that is basically the premise of how Staticom works. People say, well, why are you adding white noise to get voices? Well, because through the physics principle called stochastic resonance. Stochastic resonance is taking an audio signal that cannot be picked up by the human ear or by a sensor. When you apply white noise, it elevates that signal, either to be detectable by a sensor or by human hearing. And that's exactly what Staticom does. It takes that voice and brings it into the audible spectrum of our human hearing and allows us to hear it.
That's very fascinating. And, you know, I think that these advancements over the years and years, since people have been working, trying to communicate with spirits, the advancements it's made, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Thank you. You know, we always knew the voices were there. I mean, we've done this, like I said, for 15 years. We did EVP about year 2. I think we got into ITC, you know, bought the typical SB7. And I said to Cherie, I said, there are probably 85% of the questions we ask, there's an answer here. But between the loud static noise or other complications. I said, they're there, but we can't hear them. So then we built our own for about 12 years. I think we have like 14 boxes I built. Each one got progressively better, but we couldn't get away from the brevity of the speech, meaning we'd get a word or two, maybe three if we were lucky, but we could never get it past that. And now we believe the reason being is because it's scanning radio. They're not using radio, they're using white noise. So when it hits a station, it literally cuts their communication completely off. And so that's why another reason why we moved away from the radio, just to pure white noise, and now we get full sentences.
And it makes sense, because the way that it's supposed to work is the spirit manipulates the sounds in the radio, the in between, and that is what you pick up. But you had mentioned before about pareidolia, especially audio pareidolia.
Correct.
And it happens. I mean, it depends if you are tired, if you're if you have something going on, it's going to affect how you hear things as well.
Correct.
This much I know, 30 years doing this stuff. And
right.
Doing with your piece the other day, you had a post and you wanted people you was trying to get info from everybody. And the next day I listened to it and I'm like, well, this is exactly what I heard. If that other one, don't pay attention to that.
Yeah. What's nice about it too, it's that it's two-way communication. So you ask your question, you get your response. Not unlike with the spirit box, you only hear what's the responses, but you can't ask a question. You don't
EVP,
EVP,
right.
record and
review. So by the time you review it, you're probably not at the location anymore. By the time you hear the answer, you're at home, you've put it into your computer, you've tried to amplify it, denoise it. Staticom does that all in real time. It denoises, it cleans, it clears, slows it down 50%, and allows you to hear the answer. And then, like Cherie said, it's two-way communication. So it allows you to ask a follow-up question based on what you heard and keep that conversation going.
Now, here's a question. How is this different than, say, someone has a portal or something and they have their reverb and their noise gate? How does this make it better? Does the noise gates and things like that, doesn't that cripple what you're hearing?
It did when we first started. I mean, this took years, and you can see the improvements from DRV to Staticom 2.0, and now you'll definitely hear it in 3.0. But all of those were challenges. All of those were things we had to figure out where the sweet spots were to maximize the audio clarity. And that's still being worked on today. Like I said, we just did an update 40 minutes ago that we're going to do some more tests coming up shortly. But the clarity of the audio was super important, because if people can't agree on what they hear, then it's definitely pareidolia. And that happens a lot with EVPs. And that test you were talking about that I did the other day, we thought that was a super clear response, but that test showed us, because that was actually that was direct radio voice.
Yes, DRV, yeah.
Now, we had heard it 1,000 times, so we knew what we thought we were hearing. But when we played it for an audience, not putting up any text, there were some discrepancies on what was heard. So
I thought it was one of my best clip.
Yeah, but clearly there is it's not the clarity that we thought it was. And now we're gonna shoot out some same type of test with 3.0 and see if that problem's been solved, and everyone goes, oh yeah, here's what I heard.
Right.
And if it matches. Yeah.
So is there no ambiguity at all? Like, is there still the need for some interpretation of what you're hearing, or
We will definitely get to that when we play the clips, and I can explain the progression that has occurred from one step to the other. What you're going to hear is probably unlike anything you've heard before. The system, as we progress it, has gotten better and better over the last 4.5, coming up, I think, on 4.5 maybe years. But it didn't happen overnight. And the amount of time we've put into it has been crazy. But the results are shown. The results are there. We are now trying to get scientific organizations to take a look. We did a presentation for the Foundation of Mind Being Research a couple weeks ago. Went very well. We've got some other interests in taking a look. But, you know, people always ask us, well, when are you going to release this? Well, we want it verified first. Because as researchers, this was never built to sell, you know, just as some piece of paranormal equipment. This was done for research. And we want verification like Bocce got. Yes, we can explain, or no, we can't explain how this is occurring. But that's our goal. That's our whole purpose. From an understanding, from a consciousness perspective, does it survive death? To us, this is pretty good indication it does. You know, scientists focus on NDE studies and, you know, a whole array of studies to try to prove consciousness. Well, if you can speak to them in my own tone of voice with no mics, no input, no sound banks, word banks, that's a pretty good indication. And then people always say, well, wait a minute, is this using AI? It does use AI as a noise reduction, but it does not have any AI that will produce any type of vocal on any level.
And that's good, because that's kind of like, you need the control, but how much AI can you know what I mean? Like I love Chat GPT. I really do. Jim introduced it to me quite some time ago, and now I'm just like,
yeah, you can look up anything. You can, like, she goes, are these bananas or plantains? And because they kind of look like bananas.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not sure. So I took a picture, put it up on Chat GPT. I'm like, what is this? They're like plantain. Judging by brown spots, need to use them the next day or two.
It is banana, but it's
no,
you're
it's
looking
plantain.
for you're looking. Isn't it plantain? It's banana.
No, they're different.
Oh,
they're different by the starch, the sugar content, and a bunch of other things.
Oh.
I was at a museum the other day, and I was able to take a picture of like some kind of ancient manuscript, you know, which had, you know, some kind of like defunct language, and it was able to give me exactly what it said, you know, in seconds.
Right.
And I thought, that's awesome.
It's incredible. It's a little scary too, but it's amazing.
And what I'm learning is now what I use with the Chat GPT is, and I kind of have it dialed in pretty good, is electronic voice phenomena. And it'll run it through all spectrum analysis. It'll go through pretty much everything. And,
right.
And it'll, what I like about it is I had I'll just do this as quick as I can. I used it to do a regression on myself.
Oh.
And it was weird because it was all going good, and all of a sudden I heard a voice. And it kind of startled me, because I had my headphones on and I had a microphone onto that, and she's asking me questions and I am answering them. But this thing was answering the question. She would ask me questions and I was supposed to say okay, but this thing said okay. And it was trying to communicate with Chat GPT. So when we analyzed it, I said, look, can you run something to analyze my voice and then that clip? So it did. And it's like, no, it's not in any of your voice that I have. And I was like, well, where did it come? It had to be from you then. And the thing that caught me was it said, no, it wasn't from me. I just analyzed all that, and it's not in the chat. We caught it audioable,
Right.
but it's not showing on the chat what it said. So that was incredible.
Well, that makes perfect sense. And, you know, there was a European philosopher by the name of Gilbert Ryle, who in 1949 wrote a book called Concept of the Mind. And he ripped apart Rene Descartes' mind-body dualism, saying that Descartes was saying the mind was one thing, or the body was one thing and the mind was another, and they were separate, which mind-body dualism. But Ryle called it the ghost in the machine, mocking Descartes, which, you know, fine. But it's funny because that term wasn't used again till the late 80s in sci-fi movies, where
Right.
Ghost in the Machine was computers gaining consciousness and taking over the world. But today we've reinstated Ghost in the Machine because consciousness has the ability to communicate through various electronics, voice recorders, televisions, computers.
Yeah.
And that is how we're getting these voices. So people always say, well, if there's no vocal data in white noise, where's it coming from? It's not coming from the white noise. They're in the audio system, the electronic system of the computer. The white noise uses the stochastic resonance to elevate that voice to our human hearing. And white noise has been used in medical equipment.
Yes.
You know, they have health bracelets you can wear on your arm, and white noise is used to push that signal strength up throughout your body. It's used for all sorts of things, but for vocal elevation, it works great. And then because the white noise is at a spectral frequency of 1, meaning that every sound is even from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, when the voice overlaps some of those frequencies in the white noise, the voice goes up, but the white noise does not. So then we cut the white noise off, leaving just the vocal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was kind of freaked out about that whole thing. And what made it even worse is every time I would try to voice with ChatGPT again, it would give me this voice that wasn't the regular assistant that I use. It would say, and it would say it sarcastically, it would say, "I'm sorry, I can't connect right now. We'll get back with you later." And when I sent that clip back to ChatGPT, she was like, "That's not me." And I'm like, "Well, who is it then?" And I'm glad I saved all of that.
Just Todd, did you hear the voice when you were doing the regression, or did you hear the voice after the fact?
I heard it perfectly clear.
The audio recording.
I heard it perfectly clear. She asked me a question, and right after she was asking me that question, it kind of like was taking over. It was like, okay, and that was supposed to be my line. And then when it happened a couple more times down, I had to stop the session and was like, look, what's going on here? I have something, and it's not me. I need this.
You know what's weird though? It almost sounded like you until you really kind of isolated the audio and then listened to it, and then you could tell, oh no, that wasn't your voice. It almost, I don't know for sure, but it almost seemed like it was replicating your voice, but not perfectly.
It was strange. And when she run the thing and said, hey, if we look at the chat, the text part, it's not on there. And it's not a modified clip. It's the exact clip. But so I'm like, okay, now what?
That's interesting.
It's so funny. It's kind of like the same thing what happened to Kat, like when she got hacked. It's a similar voice, her voice and her face.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing to always remember, like I just said, can consciousness create vocals through electronics? Yes, they can. So is it very possible that he was hearing disembodied conscious voice? Yeah, it is. But the other thing to remember is that no matter how smart AI is, there's a huge difference between intelligence and consciousness.
Yes.
And people always argue that, well, will AI develop consciousness? In my opinion, no. It's science can't even figure out consciousness. We believe it's contained to carbon-based life. So could we be wrong? Well, we could. Let's hope not. But
I mean, the defining thing is, whether it's having an inner experience, and there's, that's the hard problem of consciousness. How do you go from intelligence to having an inner experience, like where there's something that it's like to be the AI system, like
correct.
To me, it seems impossible, but I don't know. I mean, there's some, thinkers that think that
the other problem is, how would you ever measure it if it did or didn't?
Right.
It's
we
not
can't even
possible.
measure our own, we can't even measure
Correct.
and definitively say whether we're conscious, like we can tell ourselves, but we can't really, say whether someone else is conscious.
Correct.
Right. Now, let me ask this question. You talked a lot about the white noise and stochastic resonance. Can you tell the people that's listening, what is the science behind the white noise and the stochastic resonance?
Well, stochastic resonance is a physics principle of basically saying that you can elevate a non-discernible signal using white noise. So the stochastic resonance is the principle of adding noise to increase a signal. So it's the difference between like what it would sound like if a single bee was flying a foot from your head or the whole hive. That's the elevation of the signal, which is what white noise does. So it brings it up to the point where a sensor could indicate, yep, there's speech here, and Staticom adjusts it so that it's audible to our human hearing.
Okay. All right. And how has the real-time slowing of the white noise changed your sessions compared to earlier DRV and the Spirit Box days?
Considerably. We would hear stuff that would sound like maybe it was a syllable. And when we slowed it down, and again, this came from the ITC pioneers, Frederick Jurgensen, Konstantin Radeve, they would state that spirits will speak so fast that you can't catch it. Not only can the brain not pull it apart because it's so fast, but that no human being could ever speak that fast, not even an auctioneer on cocaine. It's not going to happen. So once we figured out that we could take something that sounded like that, slow it down, and it's 3 or 4 words in a sentence, that's when slowing down the live white noise in real time was absolutely crucial to being able to understand what's being said.
Okay. All right.
And the science behind that is because it's vibration. I mean, Tesla said back in the 40s, you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. When we talk about what the difference in vibration is, that's what we're manipulating. We're manipulating the vibrations down to our level, because people always say to us too, what's the veil between the living and the dead? It is the human body. We are restricted in our sight, in our hearing, down to smell and taste. What am I forgetting? Touch. That is our only interpretation of the world around us. And the world around us is mentation, meaning everything is mental. And science says if the brain and body die, consciousness dies, because they believe that consciousness is a byproduct produced by the brain. We don't believe that at all. If that was the case, who's answering me? There is no body in my house. There is no body outside my house giving me answers with timing and relevance to the questions that I ask without broadcasting my voice like I have a mic in front of me now. We don't even do that. It's a closed circuit. There's no mics for it to pick up anything. There's no input. It can't pick up satellite, TV, radio, baby monitors, walkie-talkies, nothing. It's just white noise.
Right. And Cherie, you had once mentioned how the static used to hurt your ears. Is the new system more human friendly now during the sessions?
Oh, is that for me? I'm sorry.
We had a jet flying over.
I got sidetracked with a jet.
We have F-22s that go over our house every.
Can you guys not hear that?
I did hear it. Yes.
But he was asking, is the new system easier to understand, more humanable, more interactive?
Well, for me, it is compared to what we used to, use spirit boxes, and especially with the 2.0 now to 3.0, it's much clarity than the other one. And plus, when we're playing the clip online, even the Google Translation, did I say it right?
Yeah.
Google Translation, it also picks up the words. So, which is, I'm not only hearing, warble or whatever, but still it's really clear because Google Translation also picks
up. So when you've got the subtitles underneath a live show, when it can pick up what Staticom's saying, that's additional evidence to us that, okay.
And it validates
correct.
Yes. Yeah. And I was just going to ask about something that transcribes. Like I said about what my experience that I just had with ChatGPT, the voice wasn't in the text at all, but it was there, and it was analyzed, and we found out that, hey, this came from someplace, but it wasn't from me or the assistant. So yes, that's why.
And that's the funny thing about it is it should have picked up, it was audible enough to where it should have registered,
Yes.
The voice interpretation should have registered that, and it should have been in the text, but it's like something additionally inhibited that from happening,
Yes.
It is more difficult to get disembodied voices to register in the text. We have, like Cherie said, been starting to get that to occur, but having it not show up in the text would be a pretty good indication to me that the voice came from somewhere else and the text translation just completely didn't catch it, didn't understand it, or so that's very possible.
Yeah. It definitely was. It was kind of unnerving, to be honest with you. I was like, what the heck is that? So Cherie, you mentioned that even Google's audio captioning it's picking up the Staticom voices in live sessions, where this is where I was just coming in with this text type of voice to text where you can pick up the speech. Is this something that your system already does?
No, only when we ran it live. And yesterday was the first time we ever ran 3.0 live, but we did notice that the translation, when you go back and watch the live, was picking up things Staticom was saying. Now, the other problem we had is because of the multi-system configuration to get this to run live, it literally dropped our communication to maybe 25% of what it runs at if we're just running the method, not converting it 3 times through OBS teleport, transmitting OBS to Restream. But that had a huge effect on the results. But even yesterday, there were sentences said that were picked up by the live translation of the text.
Nice. Now, what do you tell the skeptics? Because they're still going to be saying it's just pareidolia. How are we ever going to convince them?
Well, we've given up
Well, first of all, we're not trying to convince everyone, so
or anyone for
or
that matter,
anyone.
right?
Yes.
That's a good point. But there are people out there that no matter what you show, you'll have groups that go, "Oh my gosh, that's incredible." You'll have people that go, "Well, I need to know a little more information." And then you'll have ones that'll say, "Absolutely not. This is ridiculous. This isn't happening." I mean, you could have a Bigfoot researcher who was out looking, didn't believe, lose his car keys, turn around and have Bigfoot hand it to him, and he still wouldn't believe it. So we did not do this to convince anyone.
Sure.
We did it for our own research, for our own knowledge. We knew what we had experienced. We wanted to prove it to us. We've done that. Now, anybody else who wants to take a look, and even when we're talking academia or science, we give an open invitation. If you want to see it, run it, test it, hear it, we are more than happy to do that, because what this system and method can do, I'm not sure what the right word is, but it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe I've ever seen another one of what you do. This is, now I don't know if Ron has a duplicate, and you
No, not anymore. We did. When we split, we were at 2.0. I'm not sure where they're at or what they're working on. But that was the point of the split. They wanted to go their way. We said, okay, fine, we'll go ours. We did a major upgrade from 2.0 to 3.0. And there are other people out there that are now doing it. There's a gentleman named Keith Clark that originally was testing a white noise voice capture with online software. And he's on Facebook. You can actually go get that model. That model was basically where we started 4.5, 5 years ago. And our voice is there. Absolutely. And people are jumping all over it, and good for them, because they can see that the voices are there. Mm-hmm. It took us 4 years to clarify it, but
it's a completely different system.
Well, yeah, our system
2.0 to 3.0, whatever Ron's
yeah,
using right now.
We have changed everything. We have modified. We have switched everything under the sun.
Yeah.
So the system we have doesn't even follow what's out there. But somebody who is interested, that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Facebook friends with him. I love watching his stuff.
Smart man. Yeah.
He's doing classes actually too.
Yeah, he'll if you contact him and say, "Hey, I'd like to try this," he can, from a distance, if you give him access, he'll pop onto your computer, he'll set everything up for you, add what you need, and away you can start testing.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting. I think that for people to have a basic version of that,
right.
So that we can understand what it's doing and how it's supposed to be doing it.
Agreed.
Not having like what you have, because you're going to continue this research and you're going to continue making it better until eventually, it's going to be a complete communication right to them. So. Right. And who knows? It might not even just be the spirits that you're talking to. My belief, and from what I've been researching, people that's doing CE5 and stuff with aliens and UFOs, they're actually getting really good results as well with things like ChatGPT and other types of equipment that they're using now. And I'm just very much blown away by what they're getting.
Yeah, people always ask us, how do you know who you're speaking to? The answer to that is we don't. We can get clues by if they're using past names, we can research it, if they can give indication of questions when we ask, like, okay, who was president when you passed away? But do we know for a fact that it's just disembodied consciousness? No, we don't. Could it be extraterrestrial? Could it be multidimensional? Yeah, it could. Anyone who claims to have had a extraterrestrial encounter says, well, they were speaking to me, but they weren't moving their mouth. So if they have the ability to telepathically send audible messages, could they not easily send it to Staticom? Absolutely, they could.
Yes, absolutely. Now, do you think that in the future you'll have Staticom as a small handheld device that you can take with you to any location, and it's very portable? You'll be able to hook it up.
We try to make it as portable as we can.
Yeah.
So now we have in a small bag.
6 months ago, when we were upgrading it, we decided we need this as portable as possible. So now it fits in a case about maybe this big by this high. Everything's in there. We can take it absolutely anywhere. And we're taking it to Halifax, Canada to do the Paranormal Symposium presentation there. We will be giving 90-minute presentation and demonstration at Phenomenon this year. And so, yeah, it is portable, but to be able to get it down to, a tiny little handheld thing, is that a possibility? Absolutely, it is.
It's literally, it's a laptop or a computer, and that's only what we have and some equipment.
Right. Because these programs are, they're like VSTs, right?
Correct.
Except you know exactly what ones they are, where anybody else has to guess.
Well, like I said, we started with the same thing Keith is giving, and he'll tell you which components we started with. But yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. We've realized there's a little bit more to it. And so we went down some of those paths, and that's kind of what got us the success that we're currently working with. But again, it's a great place to start. And yes, that portion of the system is, a linear based audio process.
Yes. And like I said, the basics that I would be trying, that's when you guys have your kind of how do I want to say it? It's your proprietary stuff, even though it's not really a proprietary, but
yeah, I mean, people always ask us, are you going to release this? When is this going to be available? It will be at some point, but until we finish the research and we can get it, like I said, accredited, and breaking into materialistic science with saying, hey, I'm speaking to the afterlife, that's not easy.
Right. And compared to like an app, and there's some pretty good apps out there. I will not trust any app unless there's no word bank.
Right. And unless you built it yourself, how would you know? But
right.
you've got even more concerns than just a word bank. Word banks are generally used in apps.
Yeah.
But then you've got things like GPS, which can tell where you're at. It can tell if you're close to a haunted location, thinking you might be going there, and then spit out words that are related to that location. It's got
time.
Yeah, it's got so much behind it, and a phone doesn't have the processing power of what it takes to run Staticom. We had to upgrade computer again to get 3.0 to run the way we needed it to. What did I pay for that? I don't know. We won't talk about it. I paid a lot for this computer in order to get this to work properly.
They're not cheap.
No, but it's necessary, and there's no way a phone can run the processes that are currently being run. So people always say, would you make it an app? I wouldn't, even if I could, just because apps have a negative connotation to them. And I don't want to see a sticker placed on an app media. I mean, if my wife had to go in for surgery and the doctor said, well, we got this new piece of equipment, we think it'll help, and I see them wheeling it in, and it's got a sticker on the side that says for entertainment purposes only. Yeah, I'm not letting them do that.
Right. But I think that's what it has to come to, not with your equipment, but with pretty much anything paranormal anymore.
No, you're absolutely right. It's for legal purposes and understanding, and we get that. But that's one of the things we're trying to elevate within the community, is that real research has gone behind this, real experimentation, test after test after test, and not something we just threw together and said, here, have fun.
Yes. So. And I've been following you and your wife and Tony and
thank you.
Not Tony, I'm sorry, Ron. And I've been following you guys for a long time. And I'm still just blown away. Every time I see a video that you guys put out, I am like, this is insane. The stuff that you get. And trust me, I've heard enough of them when you're asking questions of a name, what's your name? And it comes through and boom, you guys are like, oh, yes. That is what we want right there.
Thank you. Yes. And people say, well, do you get used to them answering? I mean, we are blown away by something every time, because it's never the same. Yeah. It's not the same voices, not the same answers. And just some of the things that they tell us, we're like, wait, what? And so it's interesting.
Yes. Let me see here. Try to think of where I'm going here.
I just have a quick question. So eventually, will this evolve into something that's purely philosophical, just about discovering more about the nature of reality and about their nature, whoever it is that's communicating? I mean, is this where, eventually, once you have all, the technical things worked out, does this turn into something that's, just purely about discovery at some point?
It is definitely about discovery of whether consciousness survives death, the discovery of how communication works. I mean, people ask, how are they speaking to you? They don't have vocal cords. Well, they've actually given that answer to us already, and I think that's in one of the clips we're going to play. But it's discovery about just about anything. I mean, we can ask how the pyramids were built. Did Atlantis exist? We can ask what they're doing, what typical life is like. We can take a look at, because we don't believe spirits are confined to time or space, because that is a man-made construct.
That's right.
Where are they answering from? And how is that getting to me in a second or two from who knows where they're at? Could that change internet speeds and how we transmit data around? And so the fact of discovery and knowledge is basically an onion of layer after layer after layer to be pulled apart of what could be learned and discovered from what this method is capable of doing.
Tony, I'm sorry, Jim. I don't want to cut you off neither.
No, go ahead.
Tony, I have a question.
Sure.
Do you ever get like I know you get past replies, but have you ever gotten any future replies?
That answer is no. And when we started getting responses a couple of levels back, we literally had to take a step back and say, okay, wait, what do we believe reality to be? How do we think it functions? What do we think life on Earth is like? And what do we think afterlife is like? And how do we believe it all works? So we adapted a philosophical theory called analytic idealism, which basically says that life for us is mentation. It's all mental. Everything is subjective to me and me alone. I can't see life through my wife's eyes. She can't see him through mine. I can't experience from her senses. And that individuality, that sense of I am alive, I'm experiencing this, which we call consciousness, is only mine and subjective to me. So that brought up so many questions. Well, where does meaning come from if everything is subjective only to me? Well, we believe that all life comes from universal consciousness, and whether you call that God from a religious standpoint, or whether you call that any other term but that we all come from one universal consciousness, and we're fragmented pieces of it when we're alive here on Earth. That information, because we're still connected to universal consciousness, allows that information to travel back and forth. So when I ask a question, they can get my question through consciousness and reply back using universal consciousness to Staticom. It's also how we believe psychics, mediums get their information. It's being on a vibrational level high enough to be porous enough to get that information to seep through. And that's how they get their thoughts, feelings, information. So it all ties together. But I'm trying to remember what his original question was.
If you get an answer from
for future.
future.
But we also believe, and we call it universal laws, is that because this life is here for you to grow and expand, that they cannot interfere with that. And they, being part of universal consciousness, the only way to grow and expand knowledge in one mind or universal consciousness is through individual portions of it experiencing something. So our life, what we go through, how we feel, and if we're all part of the same mind, it gets us perspective of everything done by everyone, not only by you alone, but by everybody else who experienced it. That is how we believe universal consciousness grows and expands.
I tried to ask a question about the lottery, but it won't give me the
Right. So when we
Powerball number.
ask questions about future, and we've asked for the Powerball, I don't know for how many years, we've stopped
many
now.
times, trust me.
But even I said one time, I said, okay, I can take this job or this job. Which one should I take? Dead silence. They will not respond anymore. And then other times in the beginning, we heard them say, don't answer that. You can't tell them that. And so we call it universal law, meaning they can't affect what we're here to learn and how we're supposed to grow individually.
So we can infer that who you're communicating to is guided by some kind of principles, I guess.
By universal consciousness is what we believe, yes.
Yeah.
As well as universal laws within it. I mean, if all of life is mentation or thought, which brings up all sorts of other principles, like, okay, well, if I think something hard enough from both my conscious down to my subconscious to my entire being, does that become a reality? Because thoughts do become reality. And we've had some experiences, especially with Upgrade on 3.0, that I believe that's where it came from. But yeah, we believe there are a certain set of rules and definitions of how things need to function and work, and they can't step over those boundaries.
Hey, Jim, that brings me to this question. Jim's a ufologist, by the way. He's very knowledgeable about all this space stuff. And I'm the paranormal person. So we kind of make a good team.
Well, that's cool.
So, but my question, Jim, is that something you hear in ufology that they're not really telling you? UFO or aliens don't really tell you about the future. They tell you about now, and they might show you glimpses of things in the future, but it never goes past that point.
Well, it just depends. I mean, with abductions, I mean, there is a lot of communication and conveyances of information that they give the impression of do pertain to the future. A lot of the prophetic stuff never comes to pass, but no, it just depends. I mean, a lot of times, I mean, they do seem similar to how Tony's describing. They seem sort of like they're going according to universal law or something like that. But then in other cases, they'll give you all kinds of stuff. An abductee, they'll give the impression, that this is going to happen in this particular year, and then it doesn't happen. It just depends. There's a lot of variance with that, depending on, the type of experience, the extraterrestrial race in question, et cetera.
Yeah, and I could see where there'd be a problem with giving somebody future things, because once you alter the future,
Right.
it can spiral completely out of control. So I can definitely see where that could be a
especially with your own future. I mean, there could definitely be problems, like if you're, because they know, I mean, they seem to know, have some idea of what your future timeline consists of, and if you tell someone about your future timeline, whether or not you'll make those same choices, is then open to question. And I think there's a potentially other ramifications too. It's just knowing what's going to happen can just set in motion a lot of randomness then. Yeah,
Right.
so I mean, it seems, like it would be in good moral practice, if you knew someone's future, not to tell them that, I think.
Now, Tony, you said that you had, and I could be wrong. You said that you had from the spirits to kind of nudge you towards the Staticom, correct? And how to make it.
Yes. As a matter of fact, some of the clips we're gonna, I think I gave. Yeah. You'll actually see how they interacted to help.
Okay.
But yeah, they did. That didn't happen immediately. That took time. That took us using it. That took us nights upon weeks upon years of frustration trying to solve stuff. But at one point, they did start to communicate on how, because they want to communicate as well. It's not one-sided,
right?
So yeah, and you'll get to see that when we get to the clips.
And I'm sorry, and that's not a futuristic thing. That is a now thing. That is
a now.
Yes,
right.
That's something that's happening. As we're speaking.
Correct.
This isn't in the future. This isn't something where they're saying, okay, you know what, 10 years from now, you're going to need to create this thing with these components. And this is now.
Correct.
Yeah. And you know what? Life is always now. And we only define past or present based on now. Mm-hmm. So, when we started pulling all that apart to get our understanding of life, it was mind-blowing. But what we've come up with doesn't challenge religion, anyone, doesn't challenge science, meaning we're using science principles to understand how we believe this is occurring. Now, science is pretty much still blind to the paranormal, and we understand that. But that doesn't mean what they do know is incorrect. So we just try not to mismatch what we think is occurring with making up some crazy story about how we think it's occurring, because that helps no one.
Sure. And it's just like the old days. Like, this is still my go-to. I love to use a digital recorder. Even though it's more work, I have to analyze it manually. But if basically kind of how your experiment was, where we all listened, if you have enough people that hear the same thing, then that's kind of compelling, which would make scientists go, it's not like everyone's hearing something very similar. They're hearing the exact same thing, and you didn't tell them anything. They're hearing it. So
and that, like I said, that was removing the low-hanging fruit. The radio was the first one that had to go, because you can't claim you're getting voices from the other side when your device you're using is made to turn into speech or music. And the other one was the clarity. The clarity had to be to a level that everyone would go, oh my God, yeah, I heard it. I heard the same thing. And
there's no guessing.
Yeah, there's no guessing. And that's where we're pretty much at. So yeah, now we're pushing the doors for them to open the door for them and say, hey, take a look, because this is not this isn't warbles and artifacts of sound coming from a radio.
Right, and especially like once you start to get, more lengthy communications, and there's, some intricacy to that, and real ideas that don't conform to, our knowledge at all, and that should, go a long way towards providing legitimacy and
Right.
scientists' minds.
Right.
And I'm very curious to see. I already can see in these experiments that you guys are doing, but I'm so curious to see what the future will bring for not just the paranormal person, but the ufologist and things like that. And I'm so stoked. I love anything that deals with voices, because my thing is, where did it come from? That's my whole thing, and it's always been.
Right.
I just don't have all the technical and knowledge that you have with this. I am just extremely fascinated by it.
So are a lot of other people, and so are us. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, we'll start running tests. Even today, I ran some tests today, and I was like, oh my gosh, it never ceases to even amaze us yet. So,
Right. And I watched some old clips of, is it Bocce? I don't know how you pronounce it.
Marcello Bocce, yes.
Yes, I've seen some old videos of his working his radio and things like that, and I'm still blown away by it. In fact, I seen some kind of a documentary. I don't know, maybe it was one you was in, Tony. I can't remember.
Could have been. I think
knowingly talking to them.
Yeah, no, we had him in where we had clip in knowingly talking to the unknown, the documentary series we put out. But I think he might have been. Was he in Calling Earth also? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, this guy here, man, he's doing this with a freaking radio. And back then, I think we have talked before about this, where I believe that tape actually is a great thing for communicating with spirits. I believe they can manipulate the tapes a lot easier than they can digital. Now, I don't know anything about the Staticom, but by going with something like this, not what you guys have, I'm very curious about that. And will they grab a hold of the tape better? I have gotten lots of EVPs on tape that were, very good. And I've also had not so good with audio. So what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, there hasn't been an audio source they haven't been able to use. From the original single wire recorder, EVPs were captured. Reel to reel, audio, analog tape, then to digital. And now we've seen communication that's occurred through regular landline phones. I mean, Konstantin Radeve talked to 30 different people, I think was the current number. Mm-hmm. Now there was some communication happening through digital cell phones and then computers. Yeah. And so I think if you consider what we consider consciousness to be after death, which again is energy, frequency, and vibration, there is no reason at all why energy, frequency, and vibration could not manipulate any form of electronic.
Right. And I was just thinking, maybe back in those days with those radios, they were they used tubes,
vacuum tubes, right?
And I was kind of wondering, could spirits grab a hold of that stuff easier because of how it was made? Lots of wire and things like that. But then as I think about it, as you just said, it seems like they can manipulate just about anything electronic.
Correct. And if they are in the form of energy, frequency, and vibration, yeah, I mean, any electronic device is going to respond to that, which is the same way extraterrestrials send messages to the human brain, which we believe to be the translator or the valve of consciousness, not the other way around. But could you send that energy, frequency, and vibration to the brain, which is an electrical system? Absolutely, you could, for them to be able to hear what you're communicating. So, yeah.
Right. That is so interesting. Jim, what do you think? Do you think that you see like a common thread between alien contact, ITC sessions? Do you think this is going to be more down the road? Everyone's going to be using a device like that to communicate?
Possibly. I kind of see down the road, and I think this is happening as we speak. People are catching on to the fact that NHI or whatever it is using AI systems to communicate with us. And I kind of feel like that's going to be the trendy thing, where everybody goes to, using ChatGPT and other AI systems. And I think it's really sketchy, though. I think that, this probably exists with every medium, but I think that it's just impossible to evaluate, authenticity, and I think that we're not ready for it. I think that everybody's going to go to this medium, and a lot of information is going to come through these channels, and it's not going to be properly evaluated by people. Anyway, yeah, but I see that happening. I see, maybe if this takes off, there'll be other things, but I'm thinking that a lot of people are going to start to use AI systems mainly.
And then, Tony, before I start playing clips, let me ask: do you think that with this technology that you're coming out with, and people get the basic type of system so that they can use, do you think moving forward, I see like a lot of, even with regular EVP, I see a lot of, how do I want to say it, manipulation with these things by different groups. So I don't want to say that they're fraudulently or faking their evidence, but do you feel that when this fully comes out that this is going to be an issue?
I don't know why you'd need to fake anything with it, because it does it on its own. Anybody who would take it and use it fraudulently, I don't know why. I don't know why. I can literally ask and get an answer with intelligence, timing, and relevance to whatever I ask. Why you would need to fake that with its capabilities, I don't know. But the fact is that human nature, egos, and everything at play, you just never know what anybody's going to do. In fact, last week, we have a blog on our website under Staticom, and I wrote an article saying, is the world ready for this? Because I think I pointed out 15 different reasons why I shouldn't release it. And so it's, there's dangers and concerns, just from what can be learned, what can be done, who would want to get a hold of it, and if it got into the wrong hands. So that was all brought up. There's, I don't know how many articles I've written, from sleep being a parameter to show that consciousness does exist because of what happens during sleep, but yeah, the dark side of a device like this or a method like this, there are definitely many issues that could be concerns.
Yes.
So do you think then that consciousnesses that aren't guided by universal law are potentially going to communicate through this and, give us unwisely, information that is problematic or that we're not ready for?
Well, I was talking about humans. Those are my concerns with it. But you are going to challenge everything from every religious organization on the planet.
Okay.
You're going to take the basis of what people were taught, believed on how life works, and challenge it. You are going to challenge science to a degree that they are going to have to take a serious look at how they believe it works. You're going to challenge the basics of which life is put together. And that alone can cause just panic and disruption.
Right.
But what do you think about consciousnesses, which we know they're out there, and we know that they may have the same capacities? What do you think about wayward consciousnesses that might not conform to universal law or any moral principles, using it to communicate?
Well, if we're all part of universal consciousness, which we believe we are, when religion says you're all part of God, well, we're part of universal consciousness. So you would never have to worry about, after death, a consciousness going off on its own, because it is now returned to universal consciousness. If there is only one mind that creates the entire universe and everything beyond it, then that means every conscious life form is all part of universal consciousness. So,
but isn't there disembodied, still some individuated units of consciousness who behave selfishly still? I mean,
well, now I think you're getting more into the darker side, demons, things that have never been human. We don't know the variables there to differentiate between the two. Do we know there's darker things out there? Absolutely. And by definition in life, to have one, by definition, you have to have the other, because they define each other. You can't have hot without cold, or neither one has meaning. You can't have dark without light, or neither one has meaning. So if you have
good or bad,
good, you have to have evil. So to explain down to the variables that I think you're asking, I don't have those answers. But could that be a concern? Yeah, I guess it could. But I know even without any malicious behavior, you're pushing the envelope of what information that you're going to get, because it's going to redefine everything we know.
All right.
Okay, well, why don't we get into the substance?
Yeah,
and
some
the
clips
transition
here.
to,
Let me share the screen here.
The point you want to play first, that's it. Yep.
Oh, right. Let me know if you can hear it.
Marcello, can you see us?
Yes.
Thank you. Marcello, you started this method. It's working. Can you please try to communicate with us?
So now that was direct radio voice. So this was 4 methods in the past. That was the clearest response we had ever received in 1 year of research. Now that was pretty clear. That's actually the one we did the test on, which people did not hear it the way that we thought we were hearing it, which was good information and education for us. But the interesting thing about that is, do we know whether that's truly Marcello Bacci? No, we don't. But the interesting thing was, even though he spoke English, you can still hear what sounds like an Italian accent within the English words, "I'd say glad to meet you," that he spoke.
And that's interesting, because I think I did. I mentioned that.
You
that,
did, Todd.
That I could hear Italian
right
in there.
Matter of fact, at first you thought it might have been Italian. Then you're like, no, there's an Italian accent. And if that was truly Martello Bacci, he was Italian.
Yes, because I was running it through like Google Translate, things like that. And then I run it through ChatGPT to translate it. And it come up. It said Italian, but then it was speaking English. So that was so fascinating that was, and I never even thought about it whenever, because I'm like, oh, I know who the guy is. But then I wasn't even paying attention. So yes.
Yeah, but Jim, you were asking about the clarity. Now that one we realized is not as good as we thought it was.
Yes.
But like I said, that was 4 versions before.
But what do you think, Jim?
Could you hear that? Could you understand it?
So I thought it was fairly clear.
Without reading the caption.
It seemed, what I was confused about was the first yes that you got seemed very different, like just how it sounded and the accent or whatever. To me,
it's not one voice. And you'll hear that coming up in other clips. We don't get just one voice. We will get what sounds like
multiple.
I don't even know how many crowding around a mic to talk.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. I mean, that there's some character to the voices. Like I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting something monotone
one more time.
or with very little character. So that's surprising to me.
I'm going to play it one more time. That's a fascinating clip.
Marcello, can you see us?
Yes.
Thank you. Marcello, you started this method. It's working. Can you please try to communicate with us?
Yes.
So, it's, and again, we have 3 more systems to go through so you can see how it's changed.
Yes. And, it's just so fascinating. That is, now that I'm listening to it now, compared to when I listened to it the other day, you can really hear that voice good now.
Once you have listened to Staticom, there is some training of the ear, no doubt about it, because they break words differently. They put pauses where we wouldn't. They'll break, like, my last name, I'll say Rathman. We've heard them say Rathman, and break it apart. So the speech is a little different now. Is that through the electronic translation? It could be. Could it be in the stochastic resonance pulling it? It could be. We know a fraction of the variables of how this is working compared to what we want to know. So,
and do spirits communicate that clearly? I mean, you would think that they have to use this energy to make that sound. So could it, like you said, they said Rathman, could that just be a spirit trying to communicate, making sure that it's trying to get your name out? It knows who you are, obviously, and it's trying to say your name.
Well, I mean, people who have done EVP work will go, okay, wait, I heard something, I can tell it's a voice, but it makes no sense. And then they'll reverse it and it makes perfect sense. If you're sending vibration to an electronic device, could a screw up happen and it get put on wrong? Yeah, it could. And that's what we believe is happening. We believe that vibration is consciousness, memory, the soul. And, same thing, how people say, how can thought be trapped in the wood of a house or the rock on the land? Well, we don't believe it is. We believe that it's vibration coming from universal consciousness, and that is what your experience when you go in and you feel sad or you feel upset, or, you know, a psychic says something terrible happened here. They're not getting it from the wood in the house or the land. They're getting it because vibrational energy is being sent or focused to whoever that is, saying, you know, you're going to be able to feel this.
That's our smoke detector.
Yeah, we just got it fixed in the thing.
I tried to
She
fix
keeps
it.
getting up. I'm like, stop that thing. But that's what that beeping is.
All right.
Is it that loud?
Yes, it is terribly loud.
Okay, let me try to fix it.
Just hold the button down for 3 seconds. I'll mute the mic when you do it. Anyway, we'll let her see if we can get that to stop.
Absolutely.
No, you can keep going.
So Polly Rotterman brought up a question. I don't know if you want to put that back up real quick, Dodd, while we're waiting, about, you know, like, why is there accents, you know, with spirits, you know, like when they transition, you know, isn't there a kind of sort of removal of all of the sort of cultural aspects? That doesn't seem to be the case when we listen to NDE experiencers. You know,
Right.
A lot of people report, you know, that I was still who I was, you know, like I still seem to be the same, although there's kind of variation with that, you know, and there's the kind of, you know, when people report encountering the tunnel of light, you know, sometimes they're told, you know, if you go through that, at that point, you won't be the same again, you know, and something will happen. The slate will be wiped, or it could just be that they're intentionally adding on an accent, you know, to, you know, if to, you know, for effect, you know, and there might be some kind of reason why they're, you know, maybe it isn't intrinsically how they're speaking, but, you know, they're sort of, for whatever purpose, attaching an accent onto what they're saying to make it more personable or to make it more human. I don't know, you know.
I don't think any of that goes away, and I don't think there's any cleansing that would kill every sense of growth of knowledge, growth of understanding, growth of the soul. Clearing it would be like materialistic science saying the brain dies, the body dies, you die. There is no anything after. No, there's not a thing on the planet that works like that. Not rain falling, hitting the ground, running in the rivers, going into the oceans, evaporating, condensing back in the clouds, and raining again. Plants grow, they produce a flower, the flower dies, it produces a seed, the seed drops to the ground, regrows another plant. But human life is 50 to 80 years and then just done? No.
Yeah, there has to be something more.
Right. There'd be no reason otherwise.
I mean, even though the Bible says that when you're dead, you're dead, I don't buy that. I believe that there is something more to it.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be. If Jesus could be crucified and be resurrected, so we know something.
Right.
We definitely know it.
Yeah.
When Cherie gets back, just let me know what clip you want me to put up.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, there's quite a few of them, so we're running out of time here.
Yes.
So go to Staticom. I think it's called Chip Patum. I think it's the second one.
Let me bring this up.
Can you say Tony? Did you just say Rathman? Yep. So you know who I am. Can I know who you are? Yes, sir. Thank you. Who am I speaking to?
So
So
what do we
first and last names.
but there was two. There was a Chip and what was the other one?
Chip Patum, Harold Patter.
And Harold. Yeah. Is that both the same name? Chip and Harold?
That's not the same name, no.
It's two different.
It's two different
persons.
names.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you think it's definitely Chip, like, because it sounds like the way the sound's coming through, like it's very like it's almost like it's abbreviated. It's like cut, like, is there like, could have that have been Jim, and just when it came through, it just, because it's so sort of cut off sounding, is that happening with this audio, or?
I'm not sure what you're trying to explain. I mean, everybody's hearing is different, so I can't experience yours.
Like, it sounds like it said Chip, but that's not a very common name, like, could it have been, something similar, but just the way the audio sort of comes through, it almost sounds very sort of abbreviated, like it's kind of like cut off, almost like it's like when like if you cut an audio wave, there's a kind of, abrupt sort of, cessation of the sound. It almost sounds like that's kind of happening, and maybe it's obscuring, the clear, word, or maybe it's something, different.
Anything's possible. That's all I can say. Like I said, this was quite a few years ago on this system, and we surpassed this one. So, but could that be possible? Yeah, it could have been.
One more time, Jim. I'm going to play it one more time.
Can you say Tony? Did you just say Rathman? Yep. So you know who I am. Can I know who you are? Yes, sir. Thank you. Who am I speaking to?
Yeah, I could hear both those names very clear.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million variables that could be affecting it at that stage where it was at. I don't have all those answers, but is it possible? Absolutely.
All right, Tony, where are we going next?
All right, go to the one titled Energy of the Mind. So this was the question. I wanted to know how they hear me.
How do you hear me speak?
Oh, wow.
Right. So, as a human, I'm using vocal cords to create sound wave disruptions. But if they're not human anymore and they don't have human ears, how do they hear me speak? They don't have the follicles which vibrate, which sends to the liquid center of the ear, which send to the brain. Brain interprets it as speech. I'm not using a mic. How do they hear me speak? They don't. It's energy of the mind, transmission of consciousness, which is the same way and same reason that after years of EVP research, a lot of times the answer would show up on the recorder before we even finished asking the question.
Right. I'm going to play that one more time. That was very interesting.
How do you hear me speak?
Wow. Energy of the mind. That's the thing.
Yeah. So now, if you're thinking that's warbles and artifacts, I mean, did everyone hear the same thing? I know the words are there. We do that for people who, maybe want to enjoy the show and can't hear. But people said, well, you put something up, it's going to make me think that's what I'm hearing. Well, no, we did tests on that too. We put totally wrong wording and people are like, I don't hear anything you wrote. So it can have an influence, but it's not that proficient to change what you're hearing.
Right. Okay, where are we headed next?
All right, now we will move on to I had cancer.
Do you know how did you die?
Oh, wow. I'm going to play it one more time. You can hear that clearly.
Do you know how did you die?
Wow.
So again, you know, we didn't usually ask that questions because we didn't usually get a response until I think that was Staticom 2.0. But Cherie came up behind me and just asked really quick, and they answered without emotion, without it being traumatic anymore. It's like, yep, what crossed me over? I had cancer.
Right. Wow. And you could hear it. You didn't have anything.
No, there were no
up there
words
to
even
say,
there.
but
Right.
you can hear it clearly.
Yeah. Okay, now we can move on to let's go to, we're going to jump up to Staticom 3.0. Now, the big difference between 2.0 and 3.0 is that 2.0, we'd get a sentence or two of information, and then the communication would be lost. It would disappear, and we'd sometimes wait a couple minutes, a couple hours, a couple days, a couple weeks at time. Staticom 3.0, we've corrected that. The voices now stay, the communication stays clear. What you're going to play is Staticom 3.0 initial, and why you're loading it, I'm just going to explain it. I was still doing the upgrade when these voices showed up. Cherie heard them, grabbed her phone, and just recorded what was coming out. But what you're going to see here, these aren't scientific questions because this was brand new at that point. It's only about 4 months old.
Testing.
But you'll hear the two-way communication that 3.0 has now created.
Wow. All right. Here we go.
Yeah, I think we lost the sound.
What'd you say?
We can't hear any sound.
Okay, let me try it again.
So I'm hearing sound, not a very clear sound, but I'm definitely hearing some audio on my end.
Sounds like it's coming through his mic. I don't know if he shared the audio.
Try it again. Okay. Still the same?
I don't even see it.
What the heck? Come on here, thing. Share screen again. Staticom, okay. Okay. Let's back that up.
Speaker. What are you trying to find? You're nervous. What? Yeah. Are you trying to send us a message?
Roger. Roger meaning yes or Roger meaning Roger?
Are you talking about Roger Martin?
Yes, Martin.
Wow. Could you hear that?
Barely.
Barely. It would break up throughout the video. So I don't know, Jim, could you hear it?
Yeah, so I did hear it. Yeah, Might have been breaking up a little bit, but yeah, I was able to hear it. Yeah. I don't know why it's different for me, but
Distance, probably.
Let me stop that one. Okay, where are we headed, Tony?
All right. So the next one you're going to play, let's see, that was initial. I'm just looking at how much time is left. So go to this one called settings, because we were talking about how they would give me information.
Okay.
Up or down the church? Seven. Okay. You got 7.
So I never even asked what number, nor told them there were numbers on that control dial. I said up or down, and they literally, we have not changed that setting from that time because it's absolutely perfect.
Wow. Wow. And there was a lot of them saying 7.
Correct. Like I said, it's always more than one voice, more than one disembodied consciousness communicating.
Wow. I got to play that one more time.
Up or down the church? Seven. Okay. You got 7.
Wow. I heard 1 6 in there.
Yeah, they were arguing a little bit on, but 7 was the most said. So that's
I don't think you can, it's very clear they said so.
right. Yeah, I mean, there's no, that wasn't warbles and artifacts. They literally, and I didn't even tell them. Like I said, there were numbers on it. I said up or down.
Right. And they were
Well,
like,
you have the numbers on your thing.
Right. So I'm saying I didn't
Yeah.
tell them that. They took me directly to where it had to go.
Right.
right.
All right. So from there, let's go to
Oh, the Percodan.
all right. Go to the one called Percodan. Staticom 3.0 Percodan.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, Cherie isn't getting sick, is she? Is Cherie getting sick, spirits? What should she take? Who created Staticom?
Wow.
Did you get that clear on your end?
Yeah, that one was all broken up for us as well.
Yeah, I have it.
I was
clear.
able to hear it. Yeah. What is Percodan? Is that
We didn't know either. So I looked it up. My wife said to me that night, she goes, I don't feel good. I am in pain. I asked, is she getting sick? They said, yes, it's possible. I said, what should she take? That word came out. You didn't see me react because I didn't know what it was. Percodan is a prescription strength high-level pain reliever. It's a mixture of oxycodone and aspirin. I did not know what it was, yet that's what they replied.
Wow.
And just quick question: when you ask them, as I'm sure you do, to repeat something, do you get consistency with their answers? Like, do they, like, if you would have asked them, what did you say? Would they have repeated that? Like, do they tend to just repeat? So, yeah, that's.
We have one clip also when Tony asks how many spirits are there.
He'll see it. It's coming up.
Okay. Gotcha.
Your question will be straight answered. All right. So for the next one, go to Staticom 3.0 responses. This is a very good indication of what we were talking about making that two-way communication happen in real time. Again, no scientific questions here. This was day 3 of it being functional. But yeah, play that one.
Okay, here we go.
Rathman, I heard you say Rathman. Yes. What did you want to say to Roger? It's Tony. Spirits, can you hear me? Yes, okay. That was a loud voice that just answered. What's your name? That's a strange name. How many spirits are here with us right now? A lot? A lot. Yeah, that's what I thought you said. Because there's so many of you, is that why all the background chatter? They're talking? Do you have any messages for us? Rathman, I heard that.
Wow. That's insane. And it's almost like they're talking to each other and they're saying, look, he can hear us, or he's speaking.
Yeah, the other amazing thing is that we can now hear all of them talking amongst each other. But there's not a thing that we ever receive that isn't on a timing or relevant basis to what we asked. I mean, you don't hear somebody in there go, I got a flat tire. Everything that was said was relevant to the questions asked, and that happens every time.
Right. That's oh man. And it just seems like there's so many. They all want to talk. And of course, they all want to do it at the same time.
What do you think he meant by be careful?
Yeah.
Well, I think we have a pretty good idea, and it was what we were talking about before. But it's allowing this to get into the wrong hands. I mean, what government would want to know what every other government is doing or has done or is planning? Or, it's just, we believe that's the be careful.
Yeah, because they also say, Tony, you've done it.
Yeah.
So to me,
and they say this works fine, as if like this works, so therefore, watch out.
Correct.
Got something working here, and
Right.
Wow. And someone here Kevin just said that 4D is a dangerous space. And that's true.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Why do you think they're two-strapped? I don't know. All right. So the next one you want to play Why do you think they're trapped? Not sure, Karen, what you're talking about. Who's trapped? Because we don't believe they're trapped. How do you trap energy, frequency, and vibration? You don't. So when people say, well, you know, earthbound spirits are trapped, we don't believe that either. We believe they have free will. They can come and go as they please to anywhere they please. How do you trap energy, frequency, and vibration? So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, Karen, but.
Oh, no, she's asking Kevin.
Oh, okay.
It's not great.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw it pop up. All right. So the next one you want to play is Staticom 3.0, fourth round of testing. So this was the night after the one you just watched, or maybe even the same night. I don't remember.
So I'm not hearing anything either.
Yeah, we're not hearing.
Some very faint, like music or something. But...
Wait, let go for just a second. Hit play again. No. No.
I can hear you when you whisper. You know that, right?
You're not hearing it?
I'm hearing it now. I'm hearing.
So
Yeah, what's playing right now?
It's cutting in and out.
Guys, if you're not familiar with this device is called Staticom. If you heard me say Staticom. That's better.
Now, can you say Staticom for me, please?
All right, Spirit. If you don't want to say Staticom, let's play another game. What am I holding in my hand? Thank you. Thank you very much. How about pineapple? Can you say pineapple? Oh, thank you. How come you can't say Staticom like that?
It's one word.
It's one word, Staticom. Have you not been able to talk to humans before? If you can hear me, Spirit, say elephant.
Do you know Tony?
It's me. If we use this device to help cold cases, will you answer the question? Yeah, sure. Thank you.
That will help.
That'll help a lot.
Wow. I like the one where it said something about you people. I was like, wow.
Yeah,
What fascinates me also on that clip is because I'm Filipino and I speak Tagalog. It came one word in there, kailan pa, meaning when, and it sound really the
perfect
perfect
pronunciation. Tagalog pronunciation. And that happens a lot. They will speak to her, give messages to her in Tagalog or Japanese or English.
Tony, I'm going to play this one again, and hopefully everybody can hear it.
It really broke up for us. I don't know, Jim, how.
I can hear it.
I was able to hear it. Yeah.
You were okay.
And it's weird. Somebody in the comments said that they could hear it fine, but they don't understand why anybody else can't hear it neither. Maybe the spirits are up to something.
Maybe.
But my question is the only thing that's edited on this video is the volume, correct?
No, the one we just watched, that was from a 30-second test. It is clipped. with questions and responses.
Okay, I wasn't sure because it sounds like some of the words were louder than others, and I was
That
just wondering.
happens. The volume on which it comes through will vary.
Oh, okay, all right. One more time here.
It's
Time what? Well, I can hear you when you whisper, you know that, right? If you're not familiar with this device is called Staticom. If you heard me say Staticom.
Now, can you say Staticom for me, please?
All right, Chris, if you don't want to say Staticom, let's play another game. What am I holding in my hand? Thank you. Thank you very much. How about pineapple? Can you say pineapple? Oh, perfect. Thank you. How come you can't say Staticom like that?
It's one word.
It's one word, Staticom. Have you not been able to talk to humans before? If you can hear me, spirit, say elephant.
Do you know Tony?
It's me. If we use this device to help cold cases, will you answer the question? Yeah, sure. You bet. Thank you.
That will help.
That'll help a lot.
So, Tony, what is the? Maybe you know, maybe you don't. What was the significance of the name Becky?
Hmm.
Do you know anything about that?
Yes, I do. One of my very good friends is Don Phillips. Don Phillips was featured on
I think an unresolved mystery.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Unsolved
Yeah.
mystery.
Yeah, Unsolved Mysteries. He has the ability to communicate with a spirit called Becky, and he's been able to do this for the last decade. He has gone underneath paranormal, parapsychological tests and has passed every single one beyond what any human could do without Becky's help. And for them to respond to me like Becky, no doubt in my mind who and what they're referring to.
Wow, that's incredible. Does this have anything to do with the cold case files? I heard you say something about case files.
We want to use this for cold cases. There are many organizations out there today that will use psychics and mediums. The nice part about this is you don't have somebody trying to reinterpret to you what they believe they're receiving. This is direct.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Thank you.
And you know, I've known people to do this with digital recorders, trying to get help from the spirits on cold cases. But this is a completely different game-changing thing because it's real time. It's happening real time.
Correct. Plus, we know that they won't say anything about the future, but they don't seem to have any concern about saying something that's already occurred.
Yes, and that makes perfect sense because that's a past thing.
Correct.
If someone had died, a year or two, or maybe 20 years ago, and
Right.
yes,
Exactly.
now they can help with that.
Yeah. So the last one we're going to play, Cherie, do you want to explain? It's Lennon.
You can explain. You explain better than me.
So on this night, I had just done what we thought, although things always change, but we thought we had done the final upgrade to 3.0. It's not, because I'm going to do another one. But so I was real happy. It seemed to be working well. But then Cherie walked into my studio and said some news, which was very disheartening, very sad. And what that news was that a friend of ours, a childhood friend of Cherie's, and someone I had known as when Cherie and I got married, very good guy, he was shot and murdered 2 days before we did this clip. Now, Staticom, when Cherie came in, was up and running. I said to Cherie, ask some questions. You know, they're responding well. Can we prove any of this is true? No, not yet. But the reason we released it was because so that it was out there prior to any information filtering back to us. So what you're going to hear, you're not going to see a lot. This was very emotional for us. But this is that clip of us asking what happened to him.
Yes, he was shot. Lenin, did you know that you were shot? Do you have a message for your family? To your mom? I saw you how they shot you or shoot you. Lenin, kilala mo ba kung sinong bumaril sa'yo? Yes, para mabigyan ka ng hustisya. Kilala mo ba kung sinong bumaril sa'yo? Just give me the name, Lenin, so I can help you. Did you know how you were killed? Lenin was shot and killed last Monday.
Lennon, do you know who did it or not? Yes. Can you give a name, please? Let's start with first name. What's his first name? Christian. A name? Is Christian a name? Was Christian a first or last name? Okay, first name. You have a last name.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That is insane.
First and last name given. Now, do we know any of it has any validity to it? Not yet.
Yeah.
But like I said, we went round and round after we captured, gone, let's just hold it. Let's not post this. And then we decided, no, let's post it because no one will believe us that we got it if we release it after.
Yeah. And also the reason why it's also very emotional to us, and we're shocked because we saw the CCTV video and how he was shot.
Yeah, literally It's like 2 feet away.
2 feet away.
Guy walked up, pulled a gun, and shot him.
Wow. Wow. And I think it's fascinating that Cherie she was talking in her native language, and
Right.
it was
Responded.
Yes, that is awesome.
Yes.
I
Thank
have had EVPs that were Irish, German, Native American. So this communication, this direct line of communication. Now, I wasn't communicating with Native American thing like that, but she was asking a question and it gave a direct answer.
Yeah, and it gave it in English so I could understand it because I don't speak. I know enough to get my face slapped, but other than that, that's it.
So yes, that is wow.
So was it kind of expressing disdain for the shooter during the first part there when it said little Christian fucker? It was kind of like expressing some angst, it seemed like.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But we didn't realize that Christian, they were literally identifying the shooter because that's the name they gave at the end.
Mhm.
So yes, they're like, I think it was objection to his behavior.
Yeah.
Mhm. And it says first name, and that gives me
Right. When I
chills.
said first or last name, that your first name you could not miss. That
Yeah.
was clear as can be.
Right. And it said something about publisher. What was that?
Yeah. Well,
Lenin is a politician.
politician.
It's two days before the election, and he
Oh.
was shot.
Wow.
That's why he has probably has
publisher.
a publisher.
Yeah, it said publisher, and then right after that, it said, oh heck, I didn't write it down. It said he's watching. I think he said he's watching.
He's
So somebody's
watching.
watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I mean, even comments like he's apart from his money. I mean, Lenin loved money. I mean, so there's not a thing in there that didn't make 100% sense to us.
Yeah, very
I mean, he was a generous guy. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. But yeah, he loved money.
What about that? It sounded like at one point it said that was deserved.
There was that statement, but I thought that was deserved after we asked who did it. If I remember correctly. But I'm pretty sure that meant it was deserved for us to know who did it.
Okay.
I could be wrong, Jim. You may, but if I remember right, it was deserved.
That's
meaning,
deserved.
Right, that's deserved, meaning we had a right to know.
You deserve to know. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, that seems possible that it could have been referencing that. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to hold you guys.
Very impressive. This is really impressive.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, the questions always come: can this be used for extraterrestrials? Can Bigfoot communicate through it? We don't have any of those answers yet, and we don't know where the abilities start and stop, how far they can go. But it'll be a fun next rest of our life to find out what it can do.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to see if it can be used in a CE5 situation to communicate with aliens, or other beings. So yes, I'm definitely very, very interested in this technology that you guys have really been working on, making this thing. It's very, very, very exciting.
Well, thank you.
You guys are going to continue and continue and continue, and I know how you guys are because I follow you guys, and you're just going to keep going and you're going to say, well, this isn't good enough. We're gonna make it until it is the best it can possibly be.
Yeah. It's
Tony.
it's addictive, and you're always looking to level it up, and I'm going to continue to do that for as long as I am here on this planet, and maybe even helping from the other side. Who knows?
Right. Yes. Oh man, Tony and Cherie, I want to thank you so much for coming on, and perhaps we can have you on again. Maybe when you get everything, the bugs worked out, we can do a live.
Yeah, we are working on that.
Hopefully we'll fix our smoke detector.
That's the second time it's gone off during, not second time, I don't even know how many times, but the second detector now that's beeping. But yeah, we'll get that fixed. But thank you, Todd and Jim. It was a pleasure to meet you, pleasure to have the conversation. Thank you for having us on to see what Staticom can do and the direction that it's heading. So we greatly appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much. And we want to thank all our listeners and viewers and everyone that's commented in the chats. And we hope to see everybody on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening. Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. A Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure is looking to talk with ufologists, researchers, investigators, contactees, abductees, channelers, and more for upcoming shows. Or if you have stories, photos, videos, questions, suggestions, or comments, please contact us through Messenger or email us at paranomalypodcast@gmail.com. And you can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. I thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure.